Feisty, fearless, and fair. She's an Emmy-winning journalist from the White House to war zones, telling all sides of the story. This is the Rita Cosby Show.
I know your name is Rita, 'cause your perfume is smelling sweet. Since when I saw you down on the floor.
And tonight on the Rita Cosby Show, Graham Platner, the embattled Democratic Maine Senate candidate, is saying he will file his paperwork on Monday. Now, Monday, 5 p.m. is the deadline for the filing for him to technically voluntarily withdraw from the race. Of course, is the guy with the Nazi tattoo and everything else. But he suspended his campaign yesterday. Remember, he did this video. Take a listen, because he did it right before the show, and everybody's talking about it. He took no responsibility, and he got all teary-eyed.
And so we're suspending campaign operations. I want to make clear, though, I intend to file my paperwork to withdraw. The process needs to assure that what comes next is reflective of the Mainers who on June 9th turned out and showed that they are desperate for a different kind of politics.
And we are desperate not to have Graham Platner in the race anymore. But I'm not convinced he doesn't have something up his sleeve. I was a little surprised he even withdrew. He obviously knows he has no money. He has no support anymore. They withdrew all the support through the Democratic Party there in Maine. They said, we're not going to back him. We're not going to help. We're not going to give you our lists for donors. They're cutting him off. But yet, why is he waiting till Monday? Why is he waiting? What is he going to do at 4:59? Or is he going to say at 4:59, I changed my mind? Until that paper is filed, this guy's a wild card, as we know from day one. So let's see where this goes. I don't totally rule out that he has something else up his sleeve, or he's trying to buy some deal or something between now and Monday, because otherwise he would have just done it today and moved on, done everybody a favor. But no, he's dragging it out for some reason, or maybe he's playing games. Maybe he's going to say, I talked to all the voters and all the wonderful, especially women and veterans and police, all the people I've offended through the years, every single segment of population, and they've told me I should stay in. I'm doing it for God and country. Who knows where he's going? This guy is obviously just off his rocker, and who knows where it's headed. He might have some trick up his sleeve. The Democratic Party, of course, is hoping no, but in the meantime, they're also trying to come up with a plan B. They're doing this convention at the end of this month with 600 representatives where they will vote to try to figure out who is the best replacement. And already there are 5 people who have submitted their information, 5, and there may well be more. Take a listen, though. Here's Hassan Piker. This is the guy who said America deserved 9/11. This is the guy who's out on the campaign trail everywhere. Remember, we see him everywhere. He's been hanging around with Mondani, and he hangs around with Abdul Al-Sayed in Michigan, and he was hanging around with Graham Platner. And he came out yesterday when the news broke and said, I can't believe the guy pulled out of the race. He actually is kind of disappointed in Zohran Mamdani. Listen to this.
I know he's narcissistic, obviously. You got to be narcissistic if you have that kind of a background. You got a Nazi tattoo on your chest, and you chose to run. But I didn't think that he would try to even refuse to fall on a sword almost. That was more so for his base, was it not? Yeah, but it was to fire up the base in a direction that is unproductive if he cares about, in any way, shape, or form, maintaining the Senate majority.
So if he cares, he should have just stayed in the race. Rape allegations and all. That's according to Hassan Piker, the great political guru. And then you got Joy Reid. I couldn't believe this, guys. She is, of course, used to host there on MS Now. And she came out and had a warning saying to voters of Graham Platner, I know you're sad that your hero is no longer in the race. And if you don't like the replacement, she basically is giving you permission to stay home. Listen to this.
Progressives picked Platner. So you need to replace him with somebody who is ideologically the same,
Basically
because that is what was decided. The people of Maine, the Democratic voters of Maine said, we want a progressive. They did not say they want an APAC moderate. So the Democratic Party in Maine ought to pick someone who is ideologically the same or ideologically similar as Platner. If you don't, and the DNC shoves an APAC candidate down your throat, you have my permission to not vote for them, because the Democratic Party needs to learn that it is not vote blue no matter who. It matters who.
Every candidate, have you heard this? You got Joy Reid talking about the candidates. Everything is anti-APAC, which is the Jewish lobbying group. Everything is anti-Israel, anti-this. We hate Israel. There are reports tonight that there's sort of a new democratic socialist platform that they're putting together, the Socialist Party. It includes amnesty for all illegal immigrants, abolishing the Department of War, and, of course, anything anti-Israel. At least these people are consistent. I'll give them that. Let's go to Alice in Ohio. Go ahead, Alice, on line 3. Your thoughts tonight.
Yes, Rita Mdavi is evil, and it breaks my heart to hear what's going on. I think yesterday you on Katz and Cosby, you had the Republican candidate for governor.
Yes.
As a guest? Okay.
Yeah, from where? From which state are you talking about? Because we've had a couple.
It was the state of New York.
Yes, actually, we
All
had today. We had Bruce Blakeman. Yesterday we had the pollster, but we had the Bruce Blakeman today. Absolutely correct. Yep.
Right. Okay. Now, first of all, do everything you can to get this man in office, because he can do what he can, within his power to keep Mdavi in check. And then start working on getting rid of this guy. Now, the previous caller, you need to get sound bites from her. People like her who are heartbroken because they don't want to go back to what they left.
Exactly. And the wonderful woman who called us from who left Venezuela. She knows the price of communism. Yes,
she does. And collect interviews with these people, and then. Where is the House Un-American Activities Committee on these people? This is treason.
Yeah, it is. It is shocking. What did you make of Mondani? The fact that somebody in his office was planning, according to this report, to meet with the Iranian ambassador in New York without telling the State Department. That's very questionable.
Of course, it's questionable, and again, that's treason. He's working against the United States. These people have to be put in check. I think you start with getting a governor in the state of New York. Like this man, I think he has a good chance. I liked that interview with the pollster. And then he can keep Mdavi in check, I think. And then President Trump can withhold funding because federal funding because you're a sanctuary city. That's illegal. And he has stated that he is going to withhold funds for cities that are sanctuary cities. It's illegal, and they get just little by little. And take a page out of Mdavi's campaign book. Use social media, collect information on what socialism has done to people, and get to the young people, and get people out, organize.
You're hitting a great point there, Alice, about getting the young people, get them educated, get them galvanized, get them appreciating this country again. I feel like there's become this disconnect of especially young people. It's all anti-ICE. It's in many ways, anti-American, anti-security. The problem is they're listening to a lot of these kind of crazy candidates. I mean, Mondani won handily the New York City mayor's race. I want to play a clip, Alice. Listen to this guy. You may have heard him. This is Abdul El Sayed, who, by the way, has finally admitted tonight that he's not necessarily a doctor. He said he's played one on TV, I guess, is the way to describe it. But he said, no, I've had a lot of medical experience, but he doesn't have a physician's license, even though he calls himself Dr. Abdul Sayed. and he talks about medical insurance being a big issue, but he's not a licensed doctor. So that's an interesting one. That's a doozy. That's like Dr. Jill Biden, you guys. But here he is. He was in the debate this week, and all he kept talking about was bashing ICE. Listen to this.
So I just want to be clear. I went to Minneapolis at the height of Project Metro Surge. I watched as our government laid siege to a city in our own country. It was awful to see. ICE is not about immigration. ICE is not about the southern border. I was on nearly the northern border. ICE is about normalizing paramilitary force on our streets. I've been clear that you can't reform ICE. You can't retrain ICE. You have to abolish ICE. Now, that's not to say that we can't secure our border. That's not even to say that we can't actually enforce our immigration policy. That is to say that we shouldn't do it at the edge of destroying our Constitution itself. ICE is a new agency. It is younger than I am. We have done this in the past in a way that respects the basic rule of law. And if we're serious about actually having a pathway in this country to a humane, thoughtful, common sense immigration system, we've got to invest in the court infrastructure that offers a pathway to citizenship for people who built a life here, that lived here peaceably, and contributed to our society. I think that's the responsibility we need to go to while keeping our southern border safe and secure.
Wow. So what do you make of that, Alice?
He wants to undermine this country. He wants to undermine everything we stand for. Isn't he the guy that was from, his parents were from Turkey, and he went back to Turkey and was radicalized? Is he the one?
Is he the one? I believe he is. I actually think you're right. I believe he is.
All right. We need to.
He definitely has hung around a lot with Hassan Piker. He's the one, by the way. Yes. He's the one who also came out. Remember, speaking of Iran, he's the one who came out and said that I don't want to talk about the death of the Ayatollah because he's in Michigan, and he said a lot of his candidates a lot of his constituents are upset about the death of the ruthless Ayatollah who's ordered the execution of his own people. I mean, you can't make it up, but he said, we don't really want to talk about it because it's a tough time for people in Michigan. A tough time? You know, that's like Hitler's dead. We don't want to talk about it. He's such a nice guy. That's what he's saying.
You need to get to the young people. Is this guy has a lot of medical experience because he's a hypochondriac and sees a lot of doctors?
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe we need to see a lot of doctors after listening to him.
We need to talk to the young people and prove that these people are wrong and how they're undermining this country, because this does not work. This doesn't work. We need to get people like this previous caller. She was wonderful to explain what she saw, how she experienced, what her experience is. She doesn't want to go back to this. Go to social media.
And you know what? I liked how she talked about the path, too, that they came in making these false promises. That I thought was powerful, too, Alice. Yeah, she was amazing, and I hope we hear from her again. Alice, too, I want to play a little bit. This is, since we're talking about the doctor stuff with Abdul El Sayed. Here he is. He's asked if he has a valid medical license. Now, he's been calling himself Dr. Abdul El Sayed, and he's also been talking about healthcare as like a big foundation of his campaign. And now the big reveal, like Jill Biden, he's not a real doctor.
You got attacked by your rivals for calling yourself a physician, not just a doctor, even though you don't have a valid state medical license in New York or Michigan, which apparently is what you need legally to call yourself a physician. Do you wish you'd just stuck to calling yourself a doctor, which you are, to avoid all of this controversy and attacks on your physician status?
You know, at the end of the day, it's not about whether or not I'm a physician or a doctor. The question is, can you see a doctor? It's not about my education. It's about whether or not your kid gets a good education. So I'm just not spending time.
That's a good line, but people would say it's also about, did you tell the truth?
Well, I would say that I was the health director for the city of Detroit. I've done more to provide more people health care or eliminate their medical debt than most doctors have done in their practice career.
Alice, what do you make of that answer real quick? He
sent in 50 Wheaties box tops and got some kind of certificate that came off of a Xerox machine. He's a phony.
You know what, Alice? That's a good one. It's like Cracker Jacks. You know, you get like the top and you get the sticker. And, oh, hey, by the way, here's a medical diploma. Here, take this one. Alice, thanks so much. You're always a good voice of reason. We need to hear more from you. 1-800-848-9222. And we'll continue with the Rita Cosby Show right after the break, everybody.
You're listening to the Rita Cosby Show. This is the Rita Cosby Show.
All right, guys, are you ready for this shocker? Maybe let's do a little breaking news for this shocker news.
Breaking news.
Well, since we have been talking about Graham Platner, you got to hear this report from the New York Post that a top advisor to New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani, who was advising him and also advising Graham Platner, apparently, according to the New York Post, get this, pushed hard for the Maine Democrat Graham Platner in the 2026 Senate race because he was eyeing a Democratic presidential ticket by 2032, saying that this guy could be definitely material if he did well as a senator for 6 years, that somehow he'd end up on the ticket in 2032. You've got to be kidding me. You have got to be kidding me. This is this guy, Morris Katz, who's Jewish, by the way. And he has been the guy who sort of really propped up Zoran Mamdani, obviously helped lead him to a successful anti-Israeli campaign. And he also hyped up Graham Platner. And he was privately saying that he would be much better than squad darling Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who he saw as someone who could not win necessarily. So this is shocking. So not only was the oyster farmer who only had his mother as a customer, according to reports, not only that guy with the Nazi tattoo and all that, was he being propped up for obviously the Senate race, which thank goodness blew up in his face. Well, we'll see, because he still has until Monday to actually file the paperwork. But now, according to the New York Post, Morris Katz, who was propping him up, sort of the mastermind, saw this guy as presidential material. Oh, my goodness. Did he look at the Nazi tattoo? Did he look at the guy's Reddit posts? Did he look at what he was saying on Kick, where he's in a towel sexting strangers? Those all things might have been a problem, Morris Katz.
Rita Cosby is on.
And it has been a very dramatic day in a Utah courtroom. We heard from Lance Twiggs. This is the former roommate / lover of Tyler Robinson, the guy accused of assassinating Charlie Kirk. We all saw what happened last year, and there was so much evidence against this guy. There were the DNA fingerprints on the towel and the gun. There was a screwdriver that was on the sniper's perch on the roof. Then there was a lot of stuff in writing. And then so much of it came into play, especially with Lance Twiggs. This is a guy, he got immunity for talking. And today, for the very first time, you saw the guy in video. He was talking with an local law enforcement who was questioning him. And he was pretty straight ahead. There's no doubt in his mind who did it. And he says that he has essentially evidence that he did it, that he confessed to it, essentially. I mean, you almost can't get any more stronger evidence than what we heard today in court. And the big question is there enough to carry him over for trial? Let me give you about 5 seconds. Yes, yes, and yes. And guess what? In Utah, there's firing squad. What this guy did was so reprehensible, plotting and planning, because he just didn't like Donald Trump. He didn't like the beliefs of these people. And he didn't like, it looks like, the fact that Charlie Kirk was good friends with Trump, was open to talking to everybody. And yet he took it upon himself to go there and kill him. I mean, it's really chilling. And then in the middle of it all, you heard all these like text messages. In the middle of it all, he's concerned about his father being upset that he used his grandfather's gun. He's not upset necessarily about what he did. He's like, oh, my father's going to really be mad that grandpa's gun hasn't come back yet because I kind of hid it in the woods, essentially. I'm paraphrasing, but that's his concern. Not that he just assassinated somebody in cold blood. It's really absolutely chilling and horrific. And here is Lance Twiggs. Again, he became a roommate with Tyler Robinson. Then he says about 2 or 3 months in, they started dating. And they were on this sort of social, media app, chat together. But also obviously talked a lot privately. And one of the things he said they talked about was Tyler Robinson wanting to engrave messages on bullets. Listen to this.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly when, but he had said he was planning to go hunting with his family. And he asked me if we had a Dremel because he said he wanted to engrave messages on bullets. And I just told him where our Dremel was and told him to make sure he doesn't set off a bullet on accident in the house. But I didn't really think about it until then.
How long before September 10th was this that he asked about the Dremel?
I don't remember because he'd been talking about the hunting/camping trip for a couple months. But I don't remember when he was specifically asking to engrave the bullets. So
are we talking a year before?
Oh no, not that long. It would have been I'd say at most a month before this was when he was asking.
Okay.
And then he says the night before he understands, he said, I have the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk and I'm going to take it. That's a pretty clear threat. And then he said he talked to him the next day after the shooting, and the guy was very remorseful, hiding out from police, and he repeated what he says he did. Listen to this.
So he acted erratically. Was he pacing? Was he just sitting down, relaxing?
No, he was walking around a lot.
And that's within the home?
Mm-hmm.
And did he talk about what he had done?
Didn't go into detail. I just asked him in person if what he said was true the night before, and he said it was. He started crying a little bit and said he wishes he hadn't done it, and then kept going around and just doing stuff, I think, to keep himself busy or distracted or something.
Okay. Did he talk about what he was going to do next?
And then eventually said that he would talk to his parents or turn himself over.
Okay. And when you left, was that how you left, understanding that he was going to turn himself in or go to his parents' house?
Yeah, and I didn't really want to be at our apartment while any of that was happening, regardless of what went down.
Yeah, maybe it's not a good idea to be around when the police are swarming your house looking for your roommate/lover who essentially, in your words, just confessed to killing Charlie Kirk. I mean, it was really chilling to watch this guy. Very convincing, very powerful, and very straight ahead. And then he was asked, well, what was the motivation? Did he used to talk about Charlie Kirk? Was he bashing Charlie Kirk? Now, he said that he never mentioned Charlie Kirk. I thought that was a little odd. And he said that they never talked about LGBTQ stuff. I thought that was a little odd, too, given the fact they're lovers. And it's Lance Twiggs, a guy, and Tyler Robinson, a guy. But he says that he did hear him sometimes talk about Trump. Listen to this.
What about Charlie Kirk? Did he ever talk about Charlie Kirk?
I personally had never heard him talk about Charlie Kirk before specifically.
Okay. How about political issues? So did you ever talk about gender identity issues and LGBTQ rights?
No, not really. Usually if he did talk about politics stuff, it was relating to Trump or current, policies being, issued or voted on, I think. But, yeah.
I would say, given that and the forensic evidence, it's pretty much a slam dunk case. But yeah, I also caution, I was talking earlier today, you guys may have heard me, we were talking on Katz and Cosby about the fact that this may be a little bit of a Judge Ito case. A lot of people are really critical of this judge because this judge seems to be kind of giving a lot of latitude to the defense, but even more than usual in a case like this. And almost kind of letting the defense run over him. A little bit like the Judge Ito O.J. Simpson case. And we know what happened at the end of that case. Remember, if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. So you can't always, what you think might be a slam dunk, sometimes things happen in American justice that have some twists. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to John in Minnesota, line 3. Go ahead, John. Your thoughts tonight.
Thanks for this. I talked to you a couple of weeks ago about my skepticism and anger over the way the negotiations were going with Iran. I was pretty sure that not much was going to come out of this. And this phony document called the Memorandum of Understanding is simply a document that says they're going to continue talking. But at least every couple of days, Iran would attack somebody. And now they've gone too far. And now at least Trump is doing the right thing, but he's got to finish it. I hope he will coordinate the attacks with Israel. And I think he's going after the Republican Guard, which is good. Let's get that done. And I would say success will be achieved when Iran can no longer fire an offensive or a defensive shot, and we give them a list of things that we must have, and they agree. And then we can talk about what they want. But I think Trump didn't want to do this. I think he wasted 60 days reacting to the high gas prices. He made the wrong decision to try to negotiate. But
so John, do you believe he just should have gone in and leveled the place?
I think he should have gone after the Republican Guard. He said these crazy things. I'm going to bomb them in the head. He's going to end their civilization. He's going to bomb their power plants and bridges. Well, let's do the Republican Guard, take care of them first. And if they're still not cooperating, then maybe some of the lights in some of the big cities need to be extinguished with the power plant destruction. But at least he's doing the right thing now. But he's got to finish this now. They are not honorable people to deal with, and they've just been playing him all along. And I think to some extent... But
don't you think he knows that, John? Don't you think... I got to interrupt you because he knows that. He knows who he's dealing with. I mean, I will say... I do feel since he's gotten this information, which I believe, obviously we're hearing reports that it came from Israel, but reports that they were planning some sort of assassination plot against him. It seems like in the last 24, 48 hours, he definitely has stepped up his ire against Iran, much more so than before. So I tend to think that he got some information that was very, very disturbing to him that clearly showed they were going much even further than he ever even anticipated, and something substantial. So, but The one thing, it's a tough dance, John, because two things. One is, and I say not dance in a facetious way, but he wants to obviously try to minimize any sort of casualties with citizens, with civilians. And I think he's done a good job at that. And he wants them still to be able to function too, and not live, without any power or heat or electrical. I mean, there's so many different things that are sort of dual use items, like these bridges and plants and stuff. On the other hand, I agree with you about the IRGC. I think it is time that he's got to level them. The problem is there's so many of them. They're like little maggots kind of crawling all over the place. And they say that there's, anywhere from 70, 80,000 to like 200,000 of them. That's a lot of diehard zealots, and most of them are alive. So, it's going to take a lot of work, but I think he's got to start really pounding these IRGC headquarters, anything associated with them, so it's clear that he's going after them and sending a message. And I agree, this sort of drip, drip, drip is a little bit difficult. But on the other hand, look, he has had much more courage and much more cojones than any other American president that I can think of. I mean, when you think about it, modern times and handling them, by far, he has sent a message, and he's given them, the world community can't say that he hasn't kept trying to find peace. He hasn't been a warmonger. So anybody who says, oh, he's a warmonger, he's not. You could tell he genuinely is doing this because he really doesn't want them to have a nuclear weapon. He understands it. So you got to give him credit for that. Don't you think, John?
Let me ask you a question. Do you think Secretary of War Hegseth is telling President Trump, Mr. President, these negotiations are going so great. We've got them just where we want them. He wants to finish the job, too. And at least Trump is now getting back on track, and maybe this will work out. But he can't let up now. He's got to get them to the table where they are subservient to what we want. They've been leading him around by the nose. And
I'm not sure about that. I think he's been very open-eyed and very aware of what they're doing. But he keeps hoping that they're going to come to the table and do the right thing. And that's a noble intention. But obviously they're not listening, and obviously they're nuts. And you're right. He is well aware of that now, as I think he always has been. But I think we're going to see a different strategy from him because he clearly has said this is it. John, thank you, though. Great points. Very, very good points. Let's go to Jimmy in Brooklyn. Line 1. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Yeah, we hear a lot lately from the Democrat Party leadership defending Platner. The Democrat leadership says it's a party, big tent party.
Right.
With a big tent. Right. So what's the big tent? Well, it's communist, it's Nazis, it's drug cartels, it's pimps, it's pedophiles. It's all kind of crooks, all kind of degenerates. Of course, not all Democrats are like that. But this is the group taking over the Democrat Party. This now is what I've been warning about on the radio. It's almost 4 decades now I've been warning about the communist threat. The Soviet hand in the Muslim glove. The Democratic Socialists of America should be called the Democratic Soviets of America. The Democrat Socialists of America, their own newspaper, was celebrating a 100th anniversary of the Soviet Revolution. So Gorbachev this is in writing now, so it's not a conspiracy. The Soviets, the communists, they write about everything. So the Soviets took away the image of the enemy to strengthen the socialist forces in the capitalist countries. That's in writing. The fake China-Russia split was officially ended in 1986. That was under Gorbachev. That's in writing. We got totally outplayed. Now, as far as the Democrats...
where do we go from here, Jimmy? Because, by the way, did you see my report that Morris Katz, who, created Mondani or played a big role in his success, and he was playing a big role in Graham Platner's success. Obviously, that one didn't work out the same way. He was planning on making him maybe a presidential candidate. We're learning tonight, the New York Post says he was planning on, that was maybe his dream ticket for 2032. You can't make it up.
Well, you already had 2 Democrat presidents that were close to communists, had communist backgrounds. That was Obama and Bill Clinton. You could see what they did, but see when the radicalization
but this is a whole other Jimmy. I'm not gonna, I'm not going to sit there and be the like defenders of the Democrats, but I will say, especially Bill Clinton, that is such a different breed than Graham Platner. Very different, very, very different. Bill Clinton, to his credit, did do some strikes. He did a number of other things. But Graham Platner is a whole new breed. And these Democratic socialists, of which you know a lot about, which is why we always love hearing from you, their record, they're about to put out some new plan. And it includes defund the police, open up the jails, illegal immigrants, let's make them all legal. It sounds like it's like a scene out of Mad Max, but that's what they want for America. So I'm glad you're sounding the alarm, Jimmy, as you always have. Jimmy, call back soon. It's really great to hear from you. And everybody, we're going to continue your calls after the break, but first support our heroes.
The Rita Cosby Show presents Support Our Heroes.
And this is the Tunnel to Towers Foundation Support Our Heroes segment with a very powerful story from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, where Dream Flights gave Oklahoma veterans a chance to soar in a restored World War II era Stearman plane, honoring their service and creating some unforgettable memories for those veterans. Pilot Marcus Smith of Dream Flight said, sometimes they feel as if they're forgotten, and this is our small way of saying we appreciate you and we remember you. For 15 minutes, 4 veterans climbed aboard the aircraft and took to the skies. They included a number of those, including one who was 100 years old. He went on to reflect upon his service, saying, I've flown all over the world and made friends in the Air Corps. I enlisted when I was 17. I felt very patriotic. This today was very, very special, and how beautiful to honor those great veterans, to remind them of just some powerful, powerful moments in world history. And everybody, all it takes is just $11 a month. Donate $11 a month to the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Be sure to check them out. They're the best at T2T.org. That's T, the number 2, T.org.
You're listening to The Rita Cosby Show. It's The Rita Cosby Show.
And let's go to Norman from Brooklyn on line 1. Norman, we love you. How are you?
I love you. I'm fine, Rita. I'm recovering. I do not have cancer. Okay, I have a wonky liver, and they're doing whatever they can to try to keep it unwonky. Okay, so basically, and I'm home. So basically,
yay! Norm, can I just say one thing? We love you. We have so many people. I love you. Our listeners love you. So many people have been asking, how is Norman doing? It's like, forget Iran, forget this. How is Norman doing? And to hear your voice, you sound great.
Thank you. I'm certainly better than the last time I spoke to you.
Well,
Listen,
do me a favor, Norman. Will you do me a favor just because we're going to the end of the show? You got to promise me you call back tomorrow night. I want to hear further how you're doing, and we love you.